Karibu everyone. Welcome to this discussion about Ubuntu and its place in social work and development. My name once again is Eria Triamreba, joining in from Uganda. And today we have someone from Kenya who is going to share more about Ubuntu and its place in social work and development. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Well, thank you so much, Eria Turia Muremba. I noted that you started by greeting me in Kiswahili, and therefore I also want to greet you in Kiswahili and all the viewers in Kiswahili. Habari zenu nyote ambao mnatuangalia adhuhuri ya leo. Thank you so very much, asanteni sana. Kwa jina, my name is Professor Gidraph Wairire. I'm an associate professor teaching social work and community development and social development related studies at the University of Nairobi in the Department of Sociology, Social Work, and African Women Studies. I am the current chairman. In other words, I'm the current head of department for the department. And this is a department that has different training programs, including social work, including sociology, and then bachelor's degree in criminology and criminal justice. In other words, at undergraduate level, our department at the University of Nairobi has got those three important undergraduate programs, that is Bachelor of Arts degree in social work, Bachelor of Arts degree in sociology, and Bachelor of Arts degree in criminology and criminal justice. I've been a social work educator for the last 33 years, and I'm happy and I appreciate these opportunities. So you're most welcome as we go through this discourse to help us understand the concept Ubuntu and its implications to us, not just as Africans, but as social work stakeholders who include practitioners, social work academics, policymakers, and students, and of course the community that we serve. Thank you.
Right, thank you so much for that introduction. And let us dive into our discussion on Ubuntu. And our first theme during this discussion is about your early understanding of Ubuntu when you're growing up. And my first question to you is, how was Ubuntu explained or demonstrated to you as a child while growing up?
Thank you so very much. I'm actually now turning 60. So you can do your math, and you can actually be able to go back and try to see exactly when it is that I was actually growing up and how it was actually happening. Allow me to first and foremost bring in this critical conceptualization of Ubuntu. It's something that we've been talking about, especially when we're coming to decolonize and when we come to indigenize social work concepts, social work dynamics, social work strategies, and social work methods, as well as social work theories, both in our classroom as well as in teaching. And Ubuntu therefore comes in there, a concept that we simply try to, not actual definition, but a concept that we try to simplify by a mere statement. I am because you are because I am. And out of this concept, we're able to understand our connectedness. We are able to understand our oneness. We are able to understand value for ourselves and other people. We are able to understand that nobody can be self-sufficient to be able to do anything by himself or by herself alone. We all need one another. As a child, coming back to the question as raised by the interviewer, I can confess that I came into this particular philosophy when I was very young. The only difference is that I didn't know that it was something philosophical at that particular point in time, but rather I knew it as a way of doing things. And this is where I grew up noticing that There were so many things that we needed other people to come in to support us and to help us. And there were so many things that other people required us and needed us so that we can all be together to pull in the same direction. Much of this begins at the family level, because the family is that basic unit of every society. At the family level, I could actually notice when my mom was giving birth to us, my siblings, I happened to be the eldest in the family. When mom was doing that, say for example, after she had given birth, we are blessed, we know we have a new sibling. I could see my aunties coming into her and sometimes neighbors coming into the family in the village to assist her because now she's resting. She could not actually be able to do much. And these are the ones who now come in to assist her, take care of the other siblings who are now older. Us, of course, we are still children. They would come, fetch water for us, fetch firewood for us. We didn't have gas, cooking gas at that point in time. We were using firewood. They would come, make sure that there is food ready for the family to eat. And they would also take care of the clothes that needed to be washed. And similarly, should this same thing happen in their respective families, my mom was equally expected to go and do the very same thing to them. It was not a call where you were told you must do it. They knew it. They would avail themselves. And this was something that would give us something to make us be proud of. It facilitated the continuity of the chores of the family to carry on, to move on. It's something that made sure that life continued and nothing came to a standstill. At the same time, it solidified and strengthened family bonds because you are all happy to see your aunties and other family members coming in to take care of you. Let's now get out of the family level. Go to the neighborhood, the village. I could see the same thing happening. If anybody had a need at that point in time, at the village or the community level, people would come and support each other. People would come. Say, for example, it was a time of disaster. Disaster could be maybe a demise or a death of a loved one. When you are wondering and struggling on how you're going to rest the person who has passed on, neighbors who may not necessarily be your family members would now come in, come with food, with firewood, with water, which is going to be used by the mourner as we are preparing to rest the departed soul. And this is something that also came in to enable us and to help us see this aspect of coming in to stand together with one another when that person was in need. Then we move on, still at the community level. There could be some children who are in need. Probably they lacked school fees. Their parents did not have enough to cater for them. Family members, together with the neighbors, would come and do some fundraising, contribute to the means through which that individual, the child, would be able to carry on with his or her studies, whether it's at high school level or even at the university level. And this was more pronounced, especially for those who would actually be admitted to the universities, whether locally or abroad, and they needed some monetary resources to enable them to execute or to carry such a task out. During that time that you would see people coming in to support each other. People would do it readily, willingly, and sacrificially. And then it was expected that this person, upon the completion of his studies, will come back again and boost and build and support the society. Why? Because because the community where, or the community will be because that person was. And the same thing goes on to the various projects that would be noted at the community level, whether it's the construction or the building of a church, whether it's the construction or the development of a new school, or anything else that was communally owned. And that is exactly how we got to see and to experience Ubuntu in the early formative stages of our life.
Right. Thank you so much for those beautiful insights of how you understood and experienced Ubuntu while growing up. My next question on this during this discussion says, what words or concepts were used to depict Ubuntu in your language? Could you share some of those?
Well, how do I put it? There are no direct words that I can say that these ones were just being used to really represent Ubuntu, because it's not a one-word thing. But what I remember is, at that particular point in time, words such as guatio would come in. That's a word that you write as NGWATIO, guatio. That would come in, meaning that nekovowatania, nikushikania, ama kushikiria. Tunashikiria hii na hii na hii. Leo tuko kwa huyu, kesho tunaenda kumshikiria mwingine. That means today we are helping this particular person with his or her issue, and the next day we will be going to someone else. And you know, that could actually be done whether it was in terms of tilling, because it was said that once we come in to put in our labor together, our minds together, our vision together, we would be able to actualize it together. And as we actualize it together, we make life more bearable for everybody. This went on to be conceptualized into a political social slogan, which came to be known as Harambee, meaning let us pull together. And of course, this was a concept that was pioneered and propounded by the founding father of the nation of Kenya, that is the first president of the Republic of Kenya, the late Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. Pulling up together means that we may not all be together in terms of our socio-economic endowment, in terms of our exposure, in terms of the resources that we have. But those who have can come and support those who do not have. And those who did not have had the liberty to request, genuinely request to be assisted. And once that was provided, then people would come and do it amicably, as a result of which the task, the burden, would be easy, and it would actually be able to be lifted up. Culturally, there are quite a number of parables that come in to support this in different languages. In my mother tongue, that means, you know, during that time, poverty levels were very high. And I believe that that is something that you know. And when poverty levels come in, there are those social aspects which are associated with poverty in the rural areas. Fleas and some other diseases of that kind of a thing would be noted to be rampant. So this saying, comes in. I may not translate it directly word for word, but it means that one finger cannot actually be able to do the task, the work for which it's supposed to do. But when the two fingers come in together and they join hands, then the task at hand is actually able to be done. The task at this time was actually killing what? That flea, that right, which could have actually been attacking, harassing, or violating an individual. It would actually be killed. That's the kind of a thing, right? Then you have another one, Kamwiki Koyagadiri. That means many hands are actually able to tackle a momentous task, and they make it manageable. What does that mean? If I am able to come and assist other people manage that huge task, then they too will be expected to come and do it when I fall prey, when I find myself in a similar situation. That's why we now say, come wige koyagadire. Many hands make momentous, big task easy to manage for the good of all.
Thank you so very much for those beautiful insights in regards to the sayings and concepts that depict Ubuntu from Kenya. My next question is going to resonate around everyday Ubuntu. And according to the theories of aging by Dr. Uzoma from Nigeria and Professor Andrew Nyanguru from Zimbabwe, they emphasize the positive contribution of the older adults in regards to building the family and society. Could you share your experience or your knowledge in regards to the theory of aging and how older people contribute towards building the family and society in respect to Ubuntu?
Let me start by this adage or this saying that says that old age. Do they say old age is wisdom or old is gold? Isn't it? Old is gold.
I think old is gold. Old is gold.
Of course, yes, of course, yes. You know, something close to that. And there are so many. You see, in African
Actually,
culture,
others say, sorry to cut you short, others say old wine tastes better. There are also such proverbs.
Okay, very well. All these, there are quite a number. In fact, there are quite a number that come into mean or to imply the very same thing. And old age has with it experience. Old age has with it exposure. Old age has with it resilience. Old age has with it understanding. Old age has with it tolerance. Old age has with it a vision for a new society. When you put all those things together and you get to see the family institution, then you get to see that this old age within the family institution can be an asset. And therefore, the aged, as they are, if they are to come to release all those things that I have highlighted, then you get to see that the family benefits. You get to see that the family is likely to remain intact. The family is likely to remain strong because there is wisdom out of old age. The family is likely to remain strong because there is counsel, mentorship by those who are old and aged. To whom are they doing it? Doing it to the different segments within the family, the children, the young men, the women separately, and even men, so to say. Now, in the concept of Ubuntu, we said that Ubuntu is I am because you are. So what do we get to see here? At the family level, the family cannot stand alone in isolation of the aged. The aged have got all those features and characteristics, cluster them, put them together to be deemed as unique resources for the maintenance and the sustenance of the family. And I add, it goes beyond the family. Once the family is strong, once the family benefits from this, then the society benefits. Where the family is weak, why? Because it does not heed, it does not listen to the wisdom of the old, the aged, the counsel of the aged, the mentorship of the aged, the resilience of the aged. Then this goes on to be reflected to the society. That society will be valueless, visionless, directionless, mannerless, hopeless. If you wish, you can add and other lessnesses. Are we together? So what then are we saying here? The wisdom of older adults cannot be isolated. And that's why these older adults too have a responsibility. It's not just for them to mentor, to advise, but they also need to mentor those who will be coming to take over from them, so that the role that they play continue, is sustainable, so much so that with their exit, then those whom they were mentoring will come in to continue with that role and mentor others. And when this is done, then the family will remain fair and the society by extension will remain just. And it's out of this that we can have an organized, fair, just, and a society and a family that knows what it is doing, where it has come from, where it is going, what it can say no to, what it can embrace, and what we cannot embrace. Why? Because threats from the African perspective to the family institution are many, diverse, and different. Some of them are coming from the influence of different cultures in society. Are we going to embrace them all? The answer is no. We know how we have been oriented and culturally sensitized to deal with these things. Who did this? Older adults in our family. If they don't do that, our families will collapse and our societies will be weak. That's why we say, I am because they are. Older adults are because of the families that they raise. Families are because of the adults or the older adults that they raise. And you get to see Ubuntu coming in, being clearly, convincingly, and well synchronized in the process.
Thank you so much for sharing about the role and the positive contribution of older adults. Our next topic of discussion is around Ubuntu in development. And the first question here that I have for you, Professor, is Mzee Kenneth Kaunda has this about Ubuntu. And he says that the national productivity drive must involve a communal approach to all developmental programs. That is according to Kenneth Kaunda. And this calls for community and team spirit. So what do you think about what Kenneth Kaunda says when he says that the national productivity drive must involve a communal approach to all developmental program, and this calls for community and team spirit? Could you comment about that in regards to Ubuntu?
Thank you so much for that question. But to see my perspective and view on this, to be very honest, is not different from what is there or what has already or what has been time and time again being propounded by development scholars. Development scholars, including social workers, including even some sociologists, and to a certain extent, including those who are from the field of economics. Because basically what you're getting here is about people's participation in the development process. We cannot have any national productivity drive without involving the people themselves. And anytime you try to do it in isolation of the people, then automatically you realize that you can't actually be able to achieve much. You need people to participate in what you're coming up with as a government, whether it's in terms of policy formulation, whether it's in terms of budgeting for what to do, whether it comes to the implementation and all that, the locals must be involved. Without this, then the said national productivity drive will be weak. Why do you need to involve the people? Involving the people in these initiatives gives them a sense of ownership. They feel they own what is coming up with. Involving the people makes them own up decisions and the outcomes of that particular project once it is done. Involvement of the people at the same time will make that particular project more sustainable. Involvement of the people will become a process of self-growth and development. They are going through it, they are feeling it, they know how to be patient, how to tolerate one another, how to make decisions, how to reject or to say no to what they don't want. Involving of the people is a democratic process. Are these not the things that we cherish in social work? I want to take you to some of the principles that we talk about. Look at the principles of social group work, the principles of community organization, and the principles of social casework. One key component of most of these principles is the right for individuals, in this case clients, to be participants in every single effort that is geared towards influencing, determining their destiny. They must be involved, determining their destiny. They need to know what is happening, what actions to take, what resources to put, what resources to apply for, and how that process will be executed. Therefore, if this project is then successfully implemented, people will own it. People will safeguard it because what they do and earn through their own initiative is much better than what is implemented from external sources. Are we together? And I'm sure if you can remember or if you can connect and correct these with what some scholars in the field of development talk about, then you get to see it's resonating very well. Look at the button and the bindle. Yeah, what do they talk about? The directive approach vis-a-vis the non-directive approach. And when it comes to the non-directive approach, that's when they say that every single approach for development, which is not imposed on the people, it involves the people right from the grassroots level to the top, more likely to be successful and sustainable than those projects which are forced through the throats of the people themselves.
Thank you so much. And we are going to our last two themes, and we shall come to the close of this discussion. And our second last theme is about Africa's Renaissance, or the future of Ubuntu. And we are looking at the African Renaissance is a period where African philosophy becomes the main worldview in African game. And we would like to find out from you what is required for this to happen. Once again, the African Renaissance is a period where African philosophy becomes the main worldview in African game. So from your perspective, what is required for this to take place or to happen?
Personally, I want to differ a little bit and allow me to speak my mind. Huh? You know, because we are scholars, we are academics. Allow me to speak my mind. I would not like to see any pressure coming in, whether it's from the African academics, African researchers, or African philosophers, where they will stand up to say that Ubuntu should be propagated to be part and parcel or to be a critical component of global, global what? Changing the global world view. I don't think we need to have any pressure on that. However, if we champion Ubuntu in our simple ways, starting right from the home, at the family level, coming into the schools where important inputs are being put in the minds of these youngsters, going through the university, then the aspects of Ubuntu will be fully actualized and they will end up into becoming real. Once this happens, then the possibility, mind you, I'm using the word possibility of having this reflected and transmitted to the greater utmost parts of the earth, different parts of the world are likely to emerge and to come out of this. The world today looks at Africa, one of the most corrupt continents globally. The world today looks at Africa as one of the poorest continents globally. It could be right, it could be wrong. But are we really poor in terms of thought? Are we really poor in terms of what? In terms of showing those positive attributes that can transform the society? Not necessarily. My answer therefore comes in here that let's not be under any pressure to be told that for this African Renaissance, then there are so many things that we need to do. I would wish and I would pray that if we can be able to see how we can inculcate the virtues and the values of Ubuntu in our family virtues, family lifelines, in our church institutions or religious institutions, in our social network, in our academic programs, then we can actually be able to expand and give this Ubuntu an opportunity to flourish, out of which to be able to reach out to the utmost parts of the world. It ceases to just remain an African thing.
Building on that same submission, I would like to pose this same question to you. From what you've shared, besides doing all those, putting those into consideration, so how can the African Union and governments accelerate the renaissance of Africa from your perspective? What do you think the African Union and the governments of Africa can do to accelerate the renaissance of Africa?
I think we need to look at the programs and the projects that come out of the African Union. What kind of programs do they come up with? What kind of projects do they come up with? What do they purpose or propose to do? Who are the critical stakeholders in this in terms of permeating, facilitating their implementation? That's the first thing that we need to ask ourselves. Then I bring in the second thing here. What contributions do the member states from the African continent, who are members of the African Union, what is it that they contribute towards that which the African Union will be propounding as the programs and the projects? What does it entail? What does it contain? And this now takes me back to the respective countries. My argument here is that we need to examine the possibilities of championing Ubuntu philosophy right at the constitutions, the national constitutions of African member states. We need to expound and to come clear, not just theorizing, come clear on the measures that can actually be taken so that Ubuntu philosophy is permeated and propounded in the basic policies that constitute what those nations, the member states, have. This will now make these nations or member states, when they are coming to the African Union to give their support, they are guided by the they are guided by the Ubuntu philosophy, which is now intertwined within the policies or within the philosophical preamble under which they are doing their submission to support African Union. And I think once that is done, then the African Union will also be able to emerge as a nation that is coming up with projects and programs for its member states, keeping in mind projects and programs that will speak to the hearts of a people, which will make us know that I am because we are. I am reading right now, I don't know whether you've been following social media. Have you been seeing the media wars between Kenya and Uganda sometimes? Have you been seeing that happened between Kenya and Tanzania, for example?
Yes, Twitter was actually.
Right now, that is exactly what's happening. When we get to see the violation of fundamental rights of individuals, the basic violation of fundamental rights of people. Is Ubuntu really coming in here? If Kenya allows, for example, these violations to move on, and Uganda does not allow them, then what are we saying? Shall we be able to move on together? And this is why I'm saying we need to have that aspect of looking at ourselves as nations so that we can actually be able to talk about it and put it in the right perspective. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those beautiful insights. We are going to our last section for this discussion, and it is about Ubuntu Globally. And my first question for you is, a few years ago, Ubuntu was recognized globally as the theme for the social work by the IFSW and also by the International Association of Schools of Social Work. So how important was this to you, and how do we keep Ubuntu a priority?
See, for me, honestly, I thought that was something that was very, very, very important. Number one, because I am a firm believer of the need for us to empower Africa. And in this case, I'm a firm believer of the need to empower social work education in Africa because it matters. If the social work education we are coming up with is to assist implementers, workers, and academics or social work trainers within the region as they train people to work with the grassroots masses, then I thought that was something that was very, 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 very important. I think for many years, the knowledge base, social work knowledge base, from the African perspective, for African client groups, has been neglected or ignored or undermined. The moment we therefore came up with that conference or recognition of the theme, and all the major journals that we have gave people an opportunity to publish on things to do with Ubuntu, then that was a tangible development and a big milestone for enriching African social work knowledge base, which again becomes a tangible resource for those to work with different client groups in the African continent. I now think we need to go beyond that. We need to ask ourselves, what strategies are we coming up with to facilitate this implementation of Ubuntu? That is now what we need to really do. If you look at the university where you are teaching, are things like gender balance adhered to the fullest? Are things like, don't answer me, I'm only asking you, are things like human rights adhered to the fullest, even in the university where you are teaching? Now, coming back to the national policy and the constitutions that we are having, are things like equity, fairness, and justice adhered to or followed to the letter? What do we need to do with the politicians who are legislators? What do we need to do with the policy makers in charge of policy? They come up with the policy and advise the powers that be on how to implement them. That shows, fine, Ubuntu is there. A lot of research on Ubuntu has been done. Measures to spearhead Ubuntu have been done, including this interview, which is digital and which is going to be put online on YouTube. But is that enough? Not necessarily. There is need for much more. And this is now what we need to consider. We need to talk about it. We also need to agitate for policy to be implemented, for implementable measures that are going to reflect and to make Ubuntu be clearly reflected in all aspects of human life within Africa and beyond.
Right. Thank you so much, Professor, for that submission. And I have a very interesting question for you. And my interesting question I have for you is, can Ubuntu exist with Western individualism from your understanding and perspective? Do you think Ubuntu can exist with Western individualism, and why so? From your submission.
I think that question already violates the meaning of Ubuntu. Why? Because you are saying that Ubuntu refers or means a philosophical preamble that means I am because you are. You are because I am. If then we have this Western individualism and we have this Ubuntu that says I am because you are, and this is Western individualism, will they accept me, recognize me for who I am, for what I am? I find a very big problem there. And for this case, me, I can say that Ubuntu may not 100% exist with Western individualism. I will die of hunger, yet my brother there has got some food on the table. Are we together? Because it is individualism. The person may not be so much concerned about me and what I'm eating or what I am. Are we there? Now look at what happened. And I don't know whether this is indeed a very good example to give. I'm not sure. We had US aid, which was coming in and doing a lot of assistance to other people in Africa. It had recognized what people can do, or rather it had recognized what such kind of support can do. It's coming from individuals who are not necessarily from Africa. But then when it comes in and says, shauri yenu, that's your own problem, it's no longer our problem, then aid is stopped, it's no longer given. Can we then say we are because you are because we are? Is Ubuntu still there? Is Ubuntu spirit and philosophy still at work in that? Can the two exist together? The answer is no. Your choice, I mean, your decision is as good as mine. Your guess is as good as mine. However, I don't say that all is lost because dependency cannot be a thing that reigns in Africa all through. A time comes when we need to rise up to be ourselves. I therefore wind up by saying that Ubuntu as a philosophy need to be handled with a lot of care. It has rich norms, benefits, and gains. If misunderstood, abused, misrepresented, and misinterpreted, then its application can just hit dead rock and it may not yield positive means or the desired outcome. Thank you.
Last question to you is, what values of Ubuntu would you wish the world to learn from Ubuntu? What values or principles of Ubuntu would you wish the world to learn about Ubuntu?
I think one of them that I may talk about is oneness. 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 Are we together? Oneness. Togetherness. Oneness. I would be very happy if the world is to know that we are one people. My blood, the blood of another person, is the same no matter the color skin that we have, no matter the continent that we come from, we are one. So what we need is, with understanding of this oneness, then we can be able to handle and treat people with the understanding that they are one. When this one is crying, when this one is feeling the pain, the other is also feeling the pain and the agony. And with this, we will not come up with measures that will be hurting or hurtful to other nations, other societies, and other people. The other one is about being mindful of others, open-mindedness. And, being open-minded to accommodate all other people or other people. Out of this, that self-centeredness that often threatens the survival of Ubuntu should not be given preeminence, neither should they be given any room to thrive. We are one as a people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. And we have come to the close of this discussion. And
Thank you so very much. I appreciate.
Yes, so I think before we wind this up, we would like you to share any proverb that you think, a proverb about Ubuntu from Kenya, that you think the rest of the world can learn from Kenya about Ubuntu. And yes, what do you think? What proverb and its meaning about Ubuntu?
But I can come up with this proverb, that says umoja ni nguvu.
Okay.
Have you ever heard about it?
No, I've not heard about it.
Umoja ni nguvu. Loosely translated, unity is strength. Huh? Unity is strength. Are people united? Because I'm able to look at you, I appreciate you, I recognize you. There is something that unites us. Our thought process, notwithstanding our differences. Something that brings us together, which makes me understand you are because I am. It brings about that unity. That unity is strength. That strength will enable us to conquer anything that comes along our way. And as we're able to conquer it, then you and I will be able to make our world a better place for us all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so very, very much, Professor Gidraph. We are very, very appreciative for having taken off time to have this discussion with me. And we believe that the rest of the world is going to learn a lot about Ubuntu. This discussion has been very insightful, and we believe a lot of people are going to benefit from this discussion. Thank you so much, and I wish you the very best of the day.
Thank you so very much. I also want to appreciate you, and you are a very thorough interviewer.
Okay, you are welcome.
Very thorough, so thank you. I appreciate, and I also want to appreciate all the schools, social work schools, and the project coordinators, respective project coordinators in this great project for this initiative. We all need to grow, to move on, and make our profession, social work, a reality. I'm proud of you, and I'm grateful. Thank you so very much, and enjoy yourself. Bye-bye.
Bye.